welcome to the presenters from the German Sport University in Cologne in Germany. So welcome, Claudia Combrink and Matthias Winterschladen. I hope I pronounce your names quite okay. Welcome here to the stage. You just mentioned to me that you've been using Pure now for 10 years. And it was about time to start also sharing your experiences to the community, isn't it? So really happy to see you here. Topic of today is the research infrastructure in Pure, enabling exchange and cooperation at the German Sport University in Cologne. So I think that's a wonderful topic. So floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. My colleague Matthias and I were working in the Department of Research and Young Academics at the German Sport University. And, today we want to present a project we are just working on. And here you see our agenda. At first, we will talk a bit about the German Sport University Cologne and our quiz and what we do there. And we give you an insight into the internal process and the technical solution approach we have for our project, or we are searching for our project. Then we'd like to name some problems and traps and give you an outlook on possible solutions. At the end, we have questions that we would like to discuss with you. The German Sport University is a very specialized university. Research and teaching revolve around sport and exercise as the central point of reference. With 6,000 students, 37 professors and 320 academic staff, it is Germany's only and Europe's largest sport university. Here you see some facts about our research. We have third-party funding in the amount of around about 15 million euros per year, about 30 PhD graduations every year, and in total about 1,000 publications a year. This data is interesting with regard to our quiz. We have implemented Pure in 2013-2014. At the beginning, our focus was on reporting about publications that we need for our internal budgeting and presenting research activities via a research portal. Our go live with Advanced Pure portal was in 2015, and in 2022 we switched to Pure 5 and the new Pure portal that had to go live in April this year, so it's really new for us. The implementation of Pure 5 was accompanied by a discussion within the life science group about increased cooperations in the field of research infrastructure. The background was in particularly low resources and the sustainable use of infrastructure. The idea of the university-wide use of research infrastructure was then implemented in the university development plan, and the central questions at the beginning were: is there a principal interest in such cooperation at the GSU? How can the cooperative use of research infrastructure be implemented in terms of organization? And how to deal with legal protection, insurance, and additional costs resulting from the cooperative use of research equipment. The first step, we launched a query on laboratories and equipment at the institutes. The aim was to get an overview of existing research infrastructure that we didn't have at that time, and of the interest in borrowing equipment on the one hand, and the willingness to provide equipment on the other hand. Here you see the questions we sent to all institutes. That means all disciplines were integrated. We differentiated between the humanities and social sciences on the one side and the natural and life sciences on the other side, as we assumed that they have different interests and requirements. Overall, there was a great interest in the subject. Here you see the data of the humanities and social sciences. More than half of them are interested in shared use of research infrastructure. A third would make own infrastructure available for shared use. Within the natural and life sciences, the interest and willingness are even higher. All of those that answered are interested, and all of those who have infrastructure would make this available for shared use. Encouraged by this data, We started the internal process and looked for technical solutions. The first step of the implementation was another discussion in the subject group of the life sciences, as they are the really group we want to address. We suggested to use Pure as central platform for research infrastructure. With the possibilities in Pure 5, this is obvious. The researchers agreed with the idea, and they recommended to provide a nomenclature for the entries of research infrastructure in Pure and to offer the possibility to include images of the equipment. No problem for Pure, as we know now. As further points that need to be clarified, they named user fees, legal protection, and insurance. We then presented the ideas to the director's office, and they agreed to the project. They pointed out that framework regulations are being developed, and they decided that equipment that is purchased centrally must be made available university-wide. We then started with the entry of data in Pure. The first step was that our department entered query data into the database. In future, this will be the task of the institutes. The second step was to develop a legal framework. We already have a model for general rules of use that is adaptable for any equipment. We are now working on framework regulations that will be valid across the board so that it is not necessary to create rules for each device. This differentiation is due to German law that is a bit difficult. And now I hand over to Matthias.
So, hello everybody, and thank you, Claudia. So now it's time to get into the process of a technical implementation, and for the use of the GSU quiz to organize this idea of a university-wide shared use of research infrastructure. We use the corresponding data type in the back end to record facilities and equipment. And for this purpose of data recording, considering research infrastructure, we set up the type facility in the back end and assigned 3 subtypes to it: laboratory, library, and archive. And additionally, the types equipment and collections are also available for independent data entries. Okay. Next one. In addition to the title designation, a short description of research infrastructure may be provided. So you can see this here. And the category equipment collection can be used to enter single devices or in the future collections for facility entries of archives or the library that are assigned to the respective facility. And of course, under persons, organizational affiliations, persons and research units associated with their research infrastructure must be specified. And according to our project, we have like 2 roles in the current state: manager or a coordinator of research infrastructure. In addition, the research unit must be named which manages the lone or on-site use of the research infrastructure. And under access to contact persons and contact address and so on should be named, and if possible desired, even a link or a photography could be entered here. Finally, it's possible to choose under which conditions external researchers could, for example, work in a laboratory or borrow a device for research purposes. So, as I said, equipment or collections already shown can be assigned to the facility directly within its data entry. The other possibility is subordination of independent data entries of an equipment to data entries of facilities under the category hierarchy. The possibility via relations to connect, for example, publications of data sets that have been compiled with the help of research infrastructure with their data entries is a big plus for our researchers who have now the opportunity to give an easy proof of the success of research projects connected with high costs for equipment, especially via the new portal front end. And this is a possible display of our research infrastructure data entries in the pure portal. At this stage, it is only in the test portal because the whole project is still in the pilot phase. So this is like the whole view, and this is like one example of one research research infrastructure data entry in the pure portal. So let's now switch from the more easier part to the obstacles and problems we meet, especially in the administrative process and in the discussions between administration and our scientists. So here I would like to transition to the practical implementation of the project and the problems and the traps. First of all, it was a classical method of collecting the data. As Claudia said, this went through a query, and of entering it into the back end and ensuring data quality. So I will switch over to the data quality. To ensure the data quality, the data entries are entered centrally at this stage of the project into CRIS by the Department of Research and Young Academics, by a colleague of us. And the nomination of CRIS editors for research infrastructure for each institute department is in the responsibility of the GSU research units. So, legal and financial questions. I would like to introduce the part about legal and financial protection with a quotation from Dr. Simone Schwartz, who is a head of Department for Research, Technology Transfer, Digitization and Europe at the Ministry of Science, Research and Arts of Baden-Württemberg, which is the federal state of Germany. So she said, in the past, science policy has focused too much on competition and too little on cooperation. However, the cooperation of researchers across national, subject and institutional borders is a key factor for new findings. But if the joint use of scientific infrastructure becomes even more subject to taxation than it has been so far, this will make cooperation more expensive and not easier. To give you like a short, briefly insight on how the problems are seen in German government institutions. Following on from this, a look at the potential fields of work that we too are confronted with in the implementation process, and where there's a risk that the project's benefits could be outweighed by an expenditure of human and financial resources. These are questions of financial security through insurance, questions of funding, financing insurance with the help of user fees, for example, and questions of legal protection by the usage regulations. So, trap number one, questions of insurance of research equipment against damage by third parties. There's very often a lack of funds to finance insurance. Only a few equipments or laboratories have insurances for this equipment. This is really a fact we have to deal with. And the coverage of insurance costs through user fees as an alternative is uncertain, as external utilization is difficult to estimate at this stage of the project. Trap number two, extreme complexity of charging user fees for equipment under German law. For research equipment financed from the university's regular budget, fees can be charged easily, but only if these simply cover the costs and if the research project of external users is not contract research. It's not commercial. In case of external contract research, commercial use, charging fees is too complicated. In terms of German tax law, here benefits would not justify the expenditure of the research resources. And trap number three, release of third-party funded research equipment is also highly complex. Loan of third-party funded research equipment is usually impossible during the term of the corresponding research project. In these cases, an individual check is every time more or less necessary, whether a loan afterwards is even possible or not, and if it is possible, under which conditions. And the typical pitfalls could be that universities are often not the owners of such a research equipment, only partly an owner, and the conditions of cooperative use by charging fees from external users vary widely especially depending on the third-party funding organizations. So now we go over to the loan process. We have already there trap number 4. At this stage of the project, we have decided not to establish a central ticket system for shared use of research infrastructure, but in the interest of a legal certainty, as Claudia already mentioned, we have developed a framework usage regulation, which is not finished yet and not already officially signed by all the university committees. This framework usage regulation is according to the guidelines of the German Research Foundation. And in addition, for individual loan of cases of equipment, we also worked out a model use policy. However, as I said, both documents have not yet been finally adopted by the university. And this brings up trap number 4, elaboration and usage of model for general rules of use. This is a trap because of different perspectives and goals of scientists and administration, which harbor conflicts in the elaboration of these regulations. Especially this is the case in the framework, for the framework usage regulation. So, and finally, possible solutions, and then we step over to the questions for you. Possible solutions could be like, for example, next step number 1, information campaign. Introduce you research units. Though we don't have the financial possibilities to do this automatically, so we have, like, in the first step, especially because it's in the pilot phase of the project, we have the need to make this campaign, to talk to our scientists, to keep up their minds at which possibilities they do have now, especially with the new portal. And our advice, of course, would be that research infrastructure entries, as I said, are now inside a system. Well, at this stage we have like 61 research infrastructure entries, and they could be easily displayed to the public into the new portal by opening up the visibility in the back end. And by linking these publications, there would be this big plus, as I said, that these entries would easily show to the public which research achievements have been done by the usage of this research infrastructure. So the intended goals were anchoring the project in the university's public consciousness and generating a magnetic effect on currently not involved institutes. Next step number 2, initiation of a working group of researchers and administrative staff. So for joint work on the framework regulations and for joint work on the model for general rules. And the intended goals is creation of a legal basis, like to get this process, which is now stuck somehow, to a success, for achieving a broad acceptance for the project and official legal basis. And the next step would be active start of shared use of research infrastructure as a pilot project with the most willing institutes. And here the intended goals would be gathering experience, especially regarding questions of insurance, user fees, and other financial issues to prevent the project from a possible failing at this status. And medium and long-term establishment of the project in the university public. So, and now I would like to switch over for the questions to the audience. I would not read them. You can read them by yourself. And thank you for your attention. And we are happy to answer your questions.
Great presentation. And I have to say, we very easily say, like, oh, you have great equipment. It was a large investment. Anybody should be able to take advantage of that. Let's make it easy. It's a no-brainer. But never thought of all the implications and all the difficulties to really make that work in practice. So thanks for opening my eyes, at least, and maybe that's also for the audience in some way. So you want to highlight your questions or prioritize, or how do you want to do it?
I think it depends if anyone in the room has experience with this theme about equipment and sharing equipment and anything, then the first question would be interesting how we can better engage our target group. I don't know whether anyone at any university has done this before, so what can we do? Or do you have any other questions to us? I think that's the first step.
Hi, Tiago from Nova in Lisbon. We've been trying to launch this module for quite some time at Nova, but we've had a bit of a resistance because, at least in our case, the researchers feel that the equipment is theirs. They gained the funding, they were able to improve their facilities with the equipment. Did you find the same resistance, or do you have a mechanism that the rectoral team or the director and the vice rectors actually are able to push this top down?
In the first talk we had with the researchers, we were very, very surprised that they want to share. They all said, oh yes, we would like to share. When we made the query, not all of them answered the query, so not all of them really want to share. There are some that really say, yes, it's possible, we can share, but we have to have an insurance or anything like that to be sure that we don't have damage to the things. So, and for those infrastructure that is purchased centrally by the budget of the university, this has to be made this has to be made shared so that anyone can use it. So the institute who owns this infrastructure has the first right to use it, but they have to give it to others too.
Are you looking back in time there also? So things that has been funded needs to go into Pure. Is it only going forward?
Once again, what?
So the equipment that has already been funded by the university or institution, are you putting those into Pure, or is it only going forward in time from now on?
No, we try to get those older things too. That was the query about. They sent us lists with the infrastructure they already have. But in future, we need a process how we can get it directly into Pure. That's the next workflow.
So you don't
we
have to go out and find it again. Yeah.
So maybe to clear up your question, the point is the interest, especially of the subject group of life science, was not only in a more sustainable use of research infrastructure. The other interest is, of course, as we are a smaller university, to have more chances to applicate successfully for funding, like in research projects where you need like a huge equipment which is with high costs, and it would make more sense like to cooperate as 2 or 3 institutes, which is quite normal in our university, and this was one of the reasons too why they launched this topic into the public of our university. But in the end of the day, of course, if the talk is about older equipment which already exists, there's another question. Like 100% of all the life science agreed, yeah, we want to share, but there are several institutes, or some of them, especially from this part of our university, didn't answer to the query, and we are still waiting.
Are the universities working on the same topic, thinking about it, planning for it, or doubting about it? Or?
It's Eike Friedrichsen from Kiel University. My vice president really wants this for quite some time, but I have really no idea how to get the things together. We would be able to get some things out of our finance system, but like just to a very general level, and of course not with all the information needed. And that's a question I have. How you need to kind of give a person, you talked about the roles, you have the roles, I think manager and coordinator or something. Whom do you put in there? Is it just the scientific staff, or because in my university it could happen that the professors also know, I'm not in charge there and I don't want to show up, please put some kind of technical staff in there, and these personnel we don't have in Pure yet, and actually didn't intend to put them in there, but there would be a solution would be necessary.
this is up to the institutes. So when we started the query to get in the existing data or the existing research infrastructure as data entries, we asked the institutes like to name a person who's like as a coordinator responsible, and then like another guy of the institute who was like the manager if there would be a lone case. So like the professors normally they choose like the role of the coordinator, or they give it like to some other leading guy of the institute, and then there's another one who has to deal with the loan process. Like you have to keep in mind, it's not only about getting in as lots of data as possible. It's like we want to start this topic of research infrastructure through these project and idea of a shared use. And this is the reason why we, in this step, we used only these two roles, coordinator and manager of loaning.
And concerning technical or academic stuff, the institute can name technical stuff, and then we make a user account for them so that they can do it. But we are a small university, then it is possible to make it by hand.
So it depends on the institutes, whose people you want to name as manager or coordinator.
I'm also wondering myself, actually, you know, the whole purpose of sharing your equipment, your research infrastructure to others is actually to, you know, make best use of public money, I think, and try to accelerate research together, isn't it? So you probably, the people in your university would like to make use of equipment from other universities as well, isn't it? So could you do something like a quid pro quo, so that, you know, if you want to make use of equipment from others, we need to be open to share that with others as well. Is that a process that you could use, maybe? Psychology?
I think that's the step after the next, or the next step. So at the moment we look at our university and the university-wide use, so that the institutes could use infrastructure from another institute. From the other university, I think that's more difficult than inside our own university. There is a lot of cooperation with the University of Cologne. So they use infrastructure together, but then they have a cooperative project. That's no problem. But the other thing is a step we will think in about 2 or 3 years, I think.
Other questions, observations? No? Then thank you very much for an intriguing presentation, and thanks a lot for the discussions as well.
Thank you.